Hey, everybody, welcome to this this week's episode of Real to Real Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and it's time once again to talk all things movies. Joining me, as always, is the other Real to Real Talker, Paul Britton. Paul, happy Tuesday. We're
Every
here to talk
Tuesday's a
movies
happy
again.
Tuesday when
Every
we're
Tuesday,
here, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't think of a better place to be right now as we get ready to talk movies again. I'm excited to tell you that when we get to when it's time, I actually have a title for my segment, and I'm ready to start it.
Woohoo! I have
So,
to tell you,
yeah,
you shared with me the movie,
yeah.
and I was like, oh, I like Jen. This is gonna be a fun segment for me.
I hope that stays the case
Yeah.
throughout because when you see the list, but I'll tell you what, I don't mind saying this before we get there. I forget how good the Christopher Guest movies are.
Yeah,
Just so we'll get to
it's
that, but
amazing.
yes,
That's a little wet your whistle for the
right,
fans out there
yeah, for
watching.
those watching.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's going to be a fun week as we're going to cover two very different movies in our main segment here, and movies that for each of us, we probably approach them in a different fashion and for different reasons. But yeah,
It's literally like, okay, yeah, like here's one for the kids and here's one for the adults. Like
seriously,
this is literally like if you flash back to 1983,
yeah,
and this would be a situation where my parents would have dropped me and my brother off and said, all right, you're gonna go see Mario and we're gonna watch Air,
right,
and your movie they would be telling us your movie lets out 20 minutes before ours. This wait at this here's $1.25 to play video games or whatever,
right.
and so
Well, and that's so funny because you brought back memories describing that. I think the thing that for me was so fun, and a little bit of transparency. I watched these two movies today. Uh,
oh
Being on vacation, fresh on my mind. Being on vacation, it's like I want to use my weekend for other stuff.
yeah
Anyway, and wow, like both of these movies hit different aspects of my movie fandom. And one more than the other. So we're going to start with a movie that is just blowing up at the theater.
It is.
And that is the Super Mario Brothers movie.
yeah
Paul, I'll tell you, and I think I've said this to you before, that if this was 2 years ago, I would have been like, maybe you take care of that one. Or maybe
I would have said no, I'm not going. I would have said no, I'm not going. We're not going to do it then because
yeah. But with my recent new exposure and enjoyment of video games, I was gonna say I have context, but I really don't. This movie, if we look at it from a pure animation standpoint, it's pretty good. But I'll tell you what, I don't have any context for these games. That's what I learned in large part from this film.
Really?
Yeah, because I've never played it. I've played Mario Party one time. I've played Mario Kart, and that's it. Like
I've never played Mario Party or Mario Kart. I mean, look, I was the kid with the Nintendo, the NES, playing Super Mario Brothers for sure.
Okay.
Getting infinite lives and so that I could win the thing, and doing as many, first time through doing the as many of the pipes to skip boards and stuff as I could, and then going back around and doing the whole damn thing. And yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
All of that. I was absolutely yes.
Well, and I'm glad because while I do recognize the major characters in this movie, there are, I'm sure, a lot of video game references from the games that probably went whoop.
If there was, other than the banana peel, if there were any Mario Kart references, I got the total of 0 of them. I have never played Mario Kart in my life.
Yeah.
And Super Mario Galaxy, which came out on Switch, I think. I don't know. Wherever super, like my favorite character from the movie
Uh-huh.
was like I had to look it up at the after the movie. I was like, okay, I love that character. Who the hell was it? And you know, I had to look him up, and sure enough, like it was like, oh, okay, well, that's nice.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of things to say about this movie in terms of its visual appeal, I guess. It's very chaotic. Just so much going on, so high energy, fast 95 minutes, I think it was,
Yeah.
of a film. And I'm not going to say I came out of it going, what the hell was that? But I was just like, I think I would have enjoyed it more if I'd had more experience playing the actual games and not sort of the two
Yeah.
that I mentioned are sort of offshoots of the main franchise
Yeah.
that have nothing to do with what happens in the main franchise of games. And so I felt like there was a lot I was missing from a context standpoint to really understand the film. So I tried to view it as an animated film that had a story to tell, was it entertaining? The character work and the actors within this film are just they're doing some phenomenal stuff. Jack Black is a treasure.
Yeah. Like let's just say what it is.
Okay.
Jack Black is phenomenal in this.
Yeah.
Like and that's what it is. It's Jack Black, and oh wow, he is so good. And I hope he gets nominated for best original song. For an Academy Award for Best Original Song, and I don't care how good of a song they throw at me in any of the Disney animated movies coming later this year. I still hope it wins because I love Jack Black and I love Tenacious D, and it literally made me want to go. I just went and did, for the rest of the weekend and yesterday and today I've been doing Tenacious D re-listens and
wow,
yeah. So like yes, 100%. That there were things in this movie that worked on me 110%. Like just absolutely, I absolutely loved. And there were things in this movie that just made me want to yell at them and say, you can do better.
Okay.
You can do better. And I guess that's okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's okay. So
highly entertaining. It does what for me good animated movies do, and that's to force me to sometimes have to look up who's playing who in the middle of the film.
Sure.
I love trying to identify voices in the midst of it all, but sometimes I can't. I knew this.
I could
Chris
not
Pratt
figure out who
in,
did Donkey Kong's voice at all. I'm kidding.
Oh, you're funny. Wasn't Seth Rogen. But yeah. No, and so the story is pretty basic. I mean, I love that it starts out right, with one of the things I recalled from the trailer was something I was looking for, because the trailer kind of had this big scope. It basically gave you the whole first scene almost.
Right.
And I'm glad that we started the movie with that, because it really did set the tone for what this is all intended for, which is just let's have some fun.
Yeah.
And while I don't think I'll ever revisit it again, I can't say I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
It was energetic, it was chaotic, but in a good way. And at the end of it all, I was like, I think there's some story things here that if I got really picky, I'm like, why do we always got to bring it back to New York and start destroying things? But
yeah. So, and this, like, another praise for this movie, and this is not like a backhanded comment. Like, I'm going to say a lot of things about this movie that are not intended as backhanded comment. They are actually genuine compliments. Like, so my son decided to go along with this movie. He's 15.
Okay.
And before the movie started, he was just talking about how terrible Illumination movies are. Like he does not like them, and like, he said, I loved Despicable Me, and then I haven't liked anything else since. And I said, no, actually, we all like Despicable Me too. He's like, okay, yeah, I like Despicable Me too, but you haven't seen Sing. There was a segment during our trailers where they just showed a whole bunch of like stuff, like the history of Illumination. And like, so we were just going through it, and it's just like, Secret Life of Pets, no. Anything after Despicable Me 2, no. Especially like the Minions movie was just terrible, although we have not seen Rise of Gru. And it's just, Illumination doesn't make family films. Typically they make kids movies, okay? And that's it. And that's okay, but as an adult, I like family movies. I'm not
Sure.
like I love family movies. And Super Mario Brother and Despicable Me and Despicable Me 2 are two great examples of family movies. And then just everything after that, it just was kiddie stuff. And
Okay.
they would throw in, infantile humor that would hopefully appeal to adults a little bit, but otherwise it's just like, yeah, this is fair for kids. And I don't like that. I like through the history of Disney and animated movies in general, it's just like the reason why animation gets a bad knock is because there's this idea that, oh, well, it's for kids, it's for kids, and it's like, no, done right, it's for everybody.
Sure.
It's family entertainment. It's not kids, it's family entertainment. And Super Mario Brothers does just enough to keep, like, just enough for, in my mind, to keep like adults happy. It's still a kids movie because the plot is the plot doesn't work. Like there's nothing story wise in this movie that works on any level. Like just it just doesn't work. But there's just enough like visual fun, and there's enough dialogue fun that makes it
That's really all this was.
Yeah.
It was intended, I believe, to be just visual fun because
the
story is paper thin. And
So
you're working with characters that again, my limited experience with the games, there's really not this much story in the game. So like you're having to create something from scratch
sure
to sort of broaden out the world and the universe of this thing. But no, I mean, but again, I don't have any major complaints in terms of did I enjoy it,
Right.
And so I think for me, this type of animation, like I loved, and you can tell your son this, but I loved Secret Life of Pets, but that's because I'm a big pet person.
Yeah, we're big pet people too, but
and but of all the ones, because I saw the same segment that you described as having happened before this film. And I was like, wow, so many of these I don't really like. I was only reminded a couple of times of a couple of, like, I think it was the first Despicable Me and Secret Life of Pets was the only one that I thought, I like those, but the rest were like, and Sing came close. Sing it just was so silly.
I haven't seen Sing, but my son assures me that I would not enjoy it. So
yeah, I'd be curious to get your thoughts, but I won't force you to go there. But no, so all in all, the Super Mario Brothers movie, which is just killing it at the box office. I don't know can it sustain, I guess, is the question.
Yes, it will. It will sustain. Yeah. It's going to. I do want to give a shout out to what's that?
I said even up against Renfield. I'm kidding.
Yes, I don't. I know that, like, kids 8 to 12 will probably peel off to Renfield, but otherwise, it'll do fine. I want to give a shout out to the nihilist blue star thing. I can't even remember the name of the character. That's the one that I had to look up. That was the best character in the movie.
That was hilarious.
That, and that was just enough. Like, and honestly, that thing came up during a time when it was just like they were losing me. They were absolutely losing me. And and then the nihilist star comes in, and it was just like, yes, that's brilliant. Like,
is that even a character from the games?
So that was what I made reference to earlier.
Sorry.
That's the character from Super Mario Galaxy.
Okay.
And so there's a story behind like the character, so what happens is that those stars, and I did not know this until after the movie. Those stars die and then are transformed into planets or galaxies, so they die and are reborn into something much bigger. And so just the idea that this character, who is this little thing, wants to die, it's just totally like, yes, this is meaningless and horrible, and I'm good to die and bring it. but because it gets to turn into like a planet or a galaxy, it's just like, yeah, that's awesome. That's really that's really creative use of that, characters.
Absolutely one of the best moments for me in this movie is when they're all in those cages that are going towards the lava, and then they start coming back up, and the star simply goes, boo.
Yeah. right.
So great. Oh man, I loved that character.
Yeah.
So yeah. So entertaining, sure, absolutely. But I am curious to know your thoughts on rating for the Super Mario Brothers movie. We go as many as 5 tacos plus guac here on the show. Paul, what would you say is your rating for the Super Mario Brothers movie?
And you're gonna have to put it up. I don't have access
Sure.
to the thing. So 3 stars. Or 3 stars. Shoot. I'm sorry. 3 tacos. It is the definition of a 3 taco movie for me. Like it doesn't. It's way better than 2. I would not even contemplate giving it guac. And it's a 3 taco movie. Like and they're fine. You'll be fine with the tacos.
You'll get the same 3 from me. Again, it was a perfectly entertaining film. It had really no more to offer than just that. And I'm glad I saw it second. Because it was quick and I was ready to get home. So
there you go.
There you go. So that is our view on the Super Mario Brothers movie. Make sure you check it out in theaters and form your own opinion. But don't say we didn't tell you. All right. That brings us to another movie that will end up in the library of talkie movies that Sergio liked. And that is a little movie called Air. Sorry, my fat finger.
Yep.
And that is the movie Air, which when you look at this poster and you look at the title, Paul, here's what I find unique about this movie. This film, by the poster alone, will turn people off, perhaps, unless they go, ooh, that's a great cast of folks.
Right.
What the hell is this about?
Right.
They
don't use Jordan to sell this movie
at all. At all, which mistake? I don't know.
I'm assuming Jordan just said, that if you can go ahead and make this movie, but I'm not,
Yeah, because there's a very purposeful approach to how he is portrayed in this film, and that he's almost not. But I think the bigger piece of the puzzle here is that this is not a story about Michael Jordan. This is a story about the shoe,
right?
The Air Jordan shoe. And so the reason I wanted to start with my commentary on the poster was after watching this and then seeing the poster, I thought, how are they going to draw people into this film? I haven't even looked at the box office, but I can't imagine it was strong.
No, it did pretty well. I don't remember what I think it did 30.
I'm happy to hear that.
Hold on, let me. You talk. I'll get the number for you. Keep going.
Yeah, we're right off the bat. Just looking at the cast list before I went to go see this movie, and in the weeks leading up to it, I'd seen trailers for it, and the trailers didn't really, I don't think, did much to set this up. Like, you got the gist of what it was for, what it was about. But what drew me was absolutely the cast. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon have done so much good work over the years. In total, that right away I was drawn to this film. Jason Bateman, I can't say enough about. I don't think he'd probably be by choice, I imagine, but he doesn't do a lot of movies. Chris Tucker, I mean, wow, he's back in this film, and Viola Davis. I mean, dude, like, the cast alone is going to get me there.
Right.
And then the movie starts and it's talky, and I'm like, yeah, here I am. I'm here. And I'm here because it's a story that I'm curious enough about that it's gonna keep me in my seat and looking forward to whatever unfolds on the screen.
For sure. Interesting trivia fact, and I'm just throwing this out to be irrelevant to anything, is that Michael Jordan essentially cast Viola Davis for the movie. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah. Like, so when they were talking to him about making the movie and just kind of getting his approval and his blessing to go ahead and make the movie, he's like, at some point during that process, he's like, Viola Davis has to play my mom. And so, and that, and yeah, I mean, come on, look, you think about women correct age actors right
Sure,
now.
sure.
She's gonna be the first one that you think about it, and so good.
Perfectly cast.
Everybody in this movie is just absolutely throwing super heavy heat.
Yeah.
You're reminded why Chris Tucker was a thing, and you
Mhm.
wish that he had done more stuff like this.
Yeah.
In his life, and not just fell into whatever. It's
Comedic performance.
everything. This is just a really, really well done movie.
Yeah.
And for the second week in a row, I have to say, by the end of the movie, I just am 100% yay capitalism, and I feel bad about myself.
I was thinking about you as I was watching this.
Yeah,
Especially the final sequence
yeah.
with Viola Davis.
Yeah.
I won't give anything away.
Well, but here's the thing: is
Uh-huh.
that's where this is different, because like, look, let's just I'm not gonna, like you said, not to do anything, but you're taking money away from the corporation,
Mhm.
and you're empowering. So the interesting thing, so there is a very, very subtle and well done political underpinning to this movie.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
if Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, from which direction that underpinning is coming from.
Yep.
And this was the first film made by their new production company, which is called Actors Equity, which is purposeful. There's the whole idea of equity,
Mhm.
of the actors having equity,
Right.
honestly. And you could have named this movie Athletes Equity, because
Sure.
that's that's the climactic moment in the third act. And
Right.
and it's interesting because it's completely out of left field, from the sideline. I don't know. I'm trying to change the baseball from a baseball metaphor to a basketball metaphor, but it's from beyond the 3-point arc.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden here it is, and it's unexpected, and it's like, oh my god, yeah, that makes sense. And
Right.
but also, yay capitalism. So
It was that moment that moment of that whole conversation and the subsequent, exchange between, Affleck and Damon's characters,
yeah,
where they have to make a decision, that literally brought out guac in my final score.
okay,
And because again, it told such a great story,
yeah,
and then it left you thinking, yeah, this is that moment. This is the Hoosiers moment where things have gone well, and then they were able to ramp it up even further.
yeah.
And it was such a well put together film. I think Chris Tucker back then was not near mature enough,
Sure.
and this is why we get this Chris Tucker performance.
Yeah.
This is a man who has matured and has aged into a strong actor that I hope we see more from.
Yeah.
But if this was it, then I'm happy to know that at some point I'm going to be able to buy this film, because this is going to literally be a purchase, because I really did enjoy this movie.
So, interesting fact about Chris Tucker is that he pretty much ad-libbed all of his stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
He's so good.
He's
such
good.
A talent.
He's really good.
I wish we had Susan right here so we could just go on about for 2 minutes about Fifth Element.
Right. I mean, it's such a difference,
Yeah.
because if you think Money Talks, his other films, they're so of that time, of that point of his life.
Right.
Whereas now we're getting this version of him, which I have to look up his filmography to even see what other types of movies he's done, if any, recently. But this is the kind of performance that, at any other time in the year might be looked at as like, hey, like this is at least a Golden Globe nomination, if nothing else.
But it's probably not going to. Let's just be fair.
And I agree with you. And this is where I wanted to ask you. We can take a small rabbit trail moment here.
Sure.
With you because of your knowledge. A movie like this, you and I have often talked about timing of film releases, in relation to award season. We just
Yeah.
came out of it a couple weeks ago. A performance like Viola Davis's, can it be remembered months from now?
Everything Everywhere All at Once, my friend.
And yeah, because but see, that is that an anomaly? Because you and I have talked often about films that we're like, man, this could be, but it's going to be too far out.
It is not the anomaly. The short answer is it's not the anomaly. It's a little early, but not too early.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that if you go back and look right now, November release, December released is not helpful at all anymore.
That's true.
It just isn't. It just isn't. Recent history shows that November, December release window does not help you with awards.
And that's why I wanted to ask you, because this is a film that is chock full of strong performances. Jason Bateman is fantastic in this film, and I think his role is probably not big enough for it to be considered for anything beyond. But when he can, his whole speech to Ben Affleck about his family and where he all of this puts him, it struck a chord. Affleck delivers for what me was the most brilliant part of the film, because it was a dialogue given with a montage.
Right.
You know how I love montages. I don't know. All in all, I hope that this movie has the legs necessary to be remembered, because I think it does very strong work.
It's an early, like, it's an early, like, well, maybe, whereas Everything Everywhere All at Once was a early, like, oh yeah, this has
the buzz started at the moment that movie was well.
And just to answer the very first question that we had about this movie, 20 million for its opening, so, which is pretty good. I thought it was at 30, but 20 million is pretty good. Like, for a movie like this, that's good. And I think it'll have a little bit of legs. I don't think you're going to see a drop off the face of the earth on this one.
No, I agree. All right. Well, that said, Paul, I told you that I added guac, and this may be high, but I really felt strong about this film, and I am going to go 4 stars or 4 stars. 4 tacos plus guac.
It's my fault.
Just because how often do we get films where just about every person that has dialogue, even the designer of the shoes, you just felt like everyone's bringing their best performances.
Yeah.
And I love that in movies like this. So 4 tacos plus guac for me for air.
I'm going just standard 4 tacos. So, but I appreciate your guac, sir.
It's good guac.
Yeah.
So this was a really, really entertaining film, and one that, again, first opportunity I get, I'll see it again. So, all right. Well, there you go. That's this week's new releases. The Super Mario Brothers movies and the movie Air. Make sure you catch them in theaters. You will not be disappointed, especially if you like talkie films. So,
for sure.
All right. Well, that brings us to our weekly look into the brain of our friend Paul and what choices he makes as we get into what the hell did I just watch with a movie I never even knew existed.
Well, yeah, nobody did, unless you're a fan of Crazy Shit or David Cronenberg, which is synonymous.
Yeah.
Crazy Shit and David Cronenberg. It's one in hand in hand. This might be like the 3rd or 4th Cronenberg I've done.
Oh yeah,
it's at least the 3rd off the top of my head. It might be the 4th. Anyway, guess what? It's crazy as fucking shit. So let me seriously. Let me read the byline on this one.
Okay.
Not the byline, but the blurb from IMDb. Riding across Manhattan in a stretch limo in order to get a haircut. And I cannot overemphasize in order to get a haircut part of this. Okay. Because that is what kicks this movie from like, oh, this is a weird movie, to this is a crazy fucking movie. A 28-year-old billionaire asset manager's day, played by Robert Pattinson, as you see there, devolves into an odyssey with a cast of characters that start to tear his world apart. Now, so if you're a fan of David Cronenberg, you understand that one of the things that he likes to do, he's a big creature guy.
Mhm.
like, back in the 80s. Like it's not something that he always necessarily carries over. But the movie that he did last year that you and I both saw in the theaters that we really liked,
Mhm.
I don't know why the name of it's escaping me at the moment, but with Viggo Mortensen,
Yes.
there was a little bit of that where like he likes he likes grotesqueness. Like one
Right.
of the things that he likes is bringing in grotesque characters. And
Absolutely.
the only thing missing from this movie is at some point, like at the end of the movie, we find out like the limo is actually like this grotesque creature moving through the city, because that's the only thing that was missing from this movie. Everything else was just spot on. So the dude is literally just taking this limo to get a haircut. And it's the funniest thing because like he insists to his driver that he'd take a certain route. And the driver explains to him, look, that's going to take forever because the president was going to be in town. And so
Mhm.
if you've, and they're in New York City, they make no, it's, this is taking place in New York City. He's like, going from east to west right now, it's going to take forever. It'll be a lot quicker if we avoid everything by going north. He's like, no, I wanted the direct route, and it does end up taking forever just to go get a haircut. And it turns out that's totally cool because this guy does everything in the limo. Like, name a thing that somebody who has $1 billion could potentially do during a day. And that limo is ready for him to do it. And people are totally cool going into the limo and doing it, meeting him just in the middle of the block, hopping. Like, there are so many fucking people going in and out of this fucking limo. I can't. It's just, and he has all these crazy conversations, and but it's an absolutely fascinating movie. But it is
Yeah.
also really we mentioned the part about Air that makes me feel a little queasy is the yay capitalism that
Sure.
that comes about. But damn, if this movie is not, hey, this is capitalism, and it
Gotcha.
just is ugly, ugly, ugly. And it's like, he has a fiance who is pretty and beautiful and a socialite, and but also is just absolutely wrong for him. And she comes in and out of the limo, and like by the end of trying to get a haircut, he goes from being engaged to not engaged. Like, literally,
Wow.
that happens in the span of an afternoon.
Yeah.
It's just, oh my God.
Wow.
I can't even. It's he has an affair with like the part of the security detail from his company, and like I it's, I it just it is it is fascinating because it's hilarious but not at all funny. Like,
Gotcha.
it's just one of those things where it's just like, this is just how do you even get this idea that this is what you're going to do? Just transform a limo into a commentary on greed and everything that's wrong with everyone. And it's just like, that's what it turns out to be.
With so many of the Cronenberg films that you and I have talked about, how does this one fly under the radar? I mean, or was I just the one that didn't notice it was there? I mean,
Yeah.
when you said Cronenberg and you sent me the title, I was like, wow, one I've not heard of.
Yeah. I don't know. By the way, Crimes of the Future. It was
Thank
the
you.
movie
Yeah,
this
I
year.
knew it was crime something, but I didn't.
Yeah. So I will answer that by telling you the movies that came out immediately before and immediately after, and
Okay.
just so you know, like, so immediately before that was A Dangerous Method. Have you heard of that?
No.
Okay. And then, was this even a feature length film? That's not. That's a short. The movie immediately after was Maps to the Stars. Have you heard of that?
I have heard of that one.
You have that? Okay, because I hadn't heard of that one.
Okay.
The answer is that yes, he did Eastern Promises, and before that, he did A History of Violence, which definitely registered on the general thing. But Cronenberg makes movies that, like, you're just like, oh wait, what? He made a movie.
Okay.
Like, he slips under the radar.
And
Very
was that
easily.
how you found it? It was just by accident, or were you aware of this one?
How did I find this one? Oh no, this was leaving HBO Max, and I was just like, oh yeah, I was like, oh, I've heard of this. Where have I heard of this? And then like, I went and I kind of opened it up, and I saw it was David Cronenberg, and I was like, well, then I'm definitely leaving. I'm definitely going to watch
Gotcha.
this one.
Nice.
And then I remembered that I actually had heard about like one of the other podcasts that I listened to had just kind of had like a David Cronenberg day when Crimes of the Future came out, and they mentioned this one being interesting.
Gotcha.
And it's not very well reviewed. I get it. Most people aren't going to like this. I don't know that you would even like it. It's weird as fuck. I mean, it really is just,
it sounds fascinating.
It is so weird. But I honestly, Pattinson's amazing in it. Like that is one thing I will say. Pattinson is absolutely fascinating in this movie.
Well, that's what made me curious about watching it, because he has done such great work recently that I'm curious. So, all right. Well, I hope it's not already off HBO Max, or else I'll look it up, because I am curious. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So, very good. That seems sort of off the path of what you normally bring us, but you enjoyed it overall?
I assure you, it was not off the path of what I normally.
Okay.
But I do try to do a pretty broad swath of things.
True,
like I do try to, but I have a center lane. Okay.
Gotcha.
And my center lane is David Cronenberg. And that's like that's the best possible way I can describe the center lane. And like,
gotcha.
I will go to things that are terrible but weird, and I'll swerve off to things that are just way too grotesque or way too, whatever, like
gotcha.
Even more than, but Cronenberg like is just that
I find it hilarious that that's the center lane, but it makes sense given what you brought to us in the past. So always a fun time. So thank you, Paul.
Yep.
For continuing to open our eyes to cinema of the
absolutely
exotic. So all right. Well, I'm just going to keep the title simple. I'm calling it Cinema by Jen.
Nice.
Jen being my spouse.
Yes.
And the whole premise of this next few weeks is just simply movies that she truly, truly loves and feels like I should have watched by now. Not just because, because I did a whole thing on movies I'd never seen that included things like E.T. and Ghostbusters and so what, a few years ago.
Okay.
But these are movies that she really loves, and so I thought, you know what, as much as you introduced me to during Real Alphabetical, it's interesting to see how different she and I's musical movie tastes are. And so she starts me off with the film you see up on the screen, Best in Show. And right away, A Mighty Wind comes to mind. As soon as the film started, I was not familiar with Best in Show.
Oh, really?
As soon as I started seeing the players, I was like, "This is the group that does A Mighty Wind." And then, sure enough, Christopher Guest and so forth. Waiting for Guffman, a few others for your consideration.
Yeah.
And so, Best in Show is where we're going to kick this thing off. We're going to do a few weeks of these, and I have to tell you, when you look at the cast that's pictured on this poster, it's like anything else. You're just immediately drawn to whatever this story is going to be and whatever comedic take it's going to have. And you're familiar with the movie, I imagine.
Oh yeah.
So
I saw this in theaters, my man.
Did you really?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
This came out 1990. I was just that was my absolute, or not 1990, 2000. I'm sorry. But like from 1990 to 2000, I don't know why I said 1990. I knew it was 2000. But like from 1991, 92 until like 2001, 2002, I just like, if it was weird or fluky or quirky and it was out in theaters and I could see it in New York or LA, I was going. Like, that's all there is to it, And
no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But with my recent almost 2 years ago, having gone through Schitt's Creek with Jen, Eugene Levy, what's her name? I can't think of her name off the top of my head. But anyway, This film is hilarious
Yeah.
on so many levels. Number one, because it's that sort of like, what is it? Tongue-in-cheek humor that these movies are all done with.
Yeah.
The I can't imagine how much of this was them off script and ad-libbing. Just the energy. Parker Posey and the man who plays her husband are just off the charts in this film.
Yes. Yes.
I kept thinking, poor dog, like
Yeah.
their particular dog. But no, one of the things that it drew me, or is sort of driving me to do, is to go and see more of these films again, because it's been such a long time, or because I've not seen them. Like, I haven't seen For Your Consideration. I have seen A Mighty Wind. I want to say I've seen Waiting for Government, but I'm trying to recall. This is such a great, sort of genre of its own, that Christopher Guest and this cast, are constantly or were constantly putting together. And it was a very great start to this experience, because again, I myself would not have chosen to watch this movie, but it gives me an appreciation for the low key humor that my wife is known to have.
Yeah.
And it just, it was just so good.
It's so
Just
good.
so good.
And yeah, it's interesting because, like, in the back of my head, the entire, like, leading up to this, the entire thing I wanted to say I have to mention Parker Posey and Michael Hickok, because they're so good. Like the whole bee sequence where they leave the toy and
oh my god,
yes, that's what's causing the dog the stress, is the lack of having the bee.
And then the resolution at the end, were like, he was just such a bad dog, like it's all ended up on the poor dog. Just, I mean, that kind of humor is just so my wheelhouse. I love slapstick, but then I love more brainy humor, like a movie like this brings. And when you throw in dogs, I mean, come on, it's just. And then who is the guy that played the announcer?
Fred Willard.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the name. Fred Willard.
Yeah.
It was painfully funny, because he's just. I mean, it makes you wonder how much was ad lib, but
a lot of it, from my understanding,
ridiculous, ridiculous. But so good.
Yeah.
And so so this is gonna actually, for my own entertainment, I'm gonna start watching more of these films again, because this cast is beyond brilliant. So that is my first entry in Cinema by Jen. She is calling the shots, and the nice part is we're watching these movies together. So I'll be sending you a list. I'll tell you right now, right off the bat, they're not going to be all older films. I believe you reviewed Emily the Criminal.
Yeah.
Am I right? I don't know that either I wasn't on the show or
I didn't review it, but I did mention, like, I mentioned it in passing.
Okay.
Because I came to it rather late, and I mentioned it in passing, and I said, by the way, I saw Emily the Criminal, and people need to watch
well,
it.
that's on her list, and that's next.
Okay.
So we'll get a chance to talk about it next week. So
sweet.
Yeah, awesome. Looking forward to that. So I'll be sending you the list of films, and cool. I'm glad that this one sort of piqued your interest in the whole thing. So all right. Well, week to week, I'll share with you what movies I am being forced to see. I'm kidding. Awesome. We do have one real quick review. Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you for a movie called Chupa on Netflix.
Yeah, came out on Netflix, and we mentioned one of the things I mentioned about the Illumination movie studio is it makes kids movies. Like, too often it makes kids movies, and it's if you're making a movie that is there to entertain a kid, I'm fine with that, but there's gotta be something. Like, there's just gotta be something, and that makes it a little more. And Chupa is another example of one that just doesn't have the little more, other than, unless, like, you just are really, really excited about seeing, oh god, I can't even remember the guy's name, Christian Slater. Unless you're really excited about seeing Christian Slater in a movie again, like, if that's enough to, like, get you excited, then you might like this, because Christian Slater is in this movie.
As I wish.com Indiana Jones.
Yeah. So. But this is this is a story about a kid who's growing up in Kansas City. His both of his parents are Mexican. His father's passed away after an illness, and he's being sent by his mom to his paternal grandfather's for a week vacation or something along those lines, to just kind of reconnect. And he doesn't speak Spanish. He just they start the movie by showing him getting razzed at school for bringing barbacoa into for lunch. Which is fine, but like just put depth. Like it just never gets depth. And so it turns out like he on his grandfather's farm there is a young chupacabra, and so he forms a kinship with a young chupacabra, which actually is really interesting.
Okay.
Like not in the movie, but as a concept, because if you think about displaced Mexican Americans, like not displaced, but migrants, and people have immigrated, the whole spectrum, like and the Mexican American population, of which you are one, obviously. How you have all ended up in the United States. There's a whole spectrum,
Right.
It's a very beautiful, colorful spectrum of how everybody, and it's the tale of America itself. Honestly, it really is. And the idea that a second generation kid might have a hard time connecting with that heritage is real. I mean, that's just very real. And the chupacabra is such a popular myth, that it would make sense that is the avatar for how somebody would reconnect to that heritage. It makes sense. It really and you could really do something good with that. And honestly, the best scenes of this movie by far are every scene where the kid is with a chupacabra. There's a lot of lucha libre. I'm sorry.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of lucha libre. That stuff doesn't work for me at all. Like, and it's he has a younger cousin who's all about being a luchador, and it turns out his grandfather was a luchador, and his grandfather was training his son, this kid's father, to be a luchador, but his father meets his wife and decides to pursue that instead. And it's so the grandfather tries to connect with the son via lucha libre to varying effects, and none of that really works as well in the movie as the kid connecting to the chupa, but there's just not enough of that, and what there is, it almost takes too long to resolve the fact that here's a young chupacabra and they are connecting, and then he is trying to get the chupacabra connected. It's like it's one of those. It's a perfect example, actually. And then the problem is Christian Slater is playing a U.S. government agent guy who is trying to find chupacabras because their blood might be able to be a panacea for cure all for everything. And it's a classic example of just one too many things. Like the Christian Slater storyline we don't need at all. Like, you just drop it entirely. Make the movie just about this kid connecting with the freaking chupacabra. The grandfather stuff, just it's nice. It's not necessary. Let the kid connect with the chupacabra, get the chupacabra home, realize the importance of all that. Then he connects with his grandfather, and everybody's happy. But that's not what we get. We get a whole bunch of other nonsense going on. And
wow,
yeah. So
there you go.
That's my review.
All right. And on Netflix, I believe.
Yeah, on Netflix. Yeah. I did genuinely want to really like this. I didn't hate it. It's a kid's movie. It's with too much going on. which is
All
never a
right.
good idea for a kids movie.
No, of course not. All right. Well, I appreciate you bringing that to us this week.
Yeah.
We are looking forward to this coming weekend when we will have the release of both Renfield and The Pope's Exorcist. Both two very different movies.
Look, if you have watched, actually, they're not two very different. They're yeah. One is a horror comedy, the other is a serious
horror movie.
If you've watched more than one episode of this, you know two things about you and me. One, we like exorcism movies. Like
yes,
that, we're not gonna
shy away from it. There you go.
And
exactly.
Two, we have talked about Nick Cage quite a bit. Like he's
absolutely.
been we don't need to beat the Nick Cage dead horse.
No.
But we certainly will try.
We're going to add layers to what we've done in the past. So
yeah,
absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to talking about those two movies and more in this coming week. Paul, overall, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for all that you do week to week. So make sure you join us next week once again, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central, for more movie talk. So y'all have a good night. Paul, you have a good week, and remember, you're awesome, you're amazing, and the world's a better place because you are in it. We'll see you all next week on Real to Real Talk. Good night, everybody.